Hey guys, just stepped off a call with a group of clients. So I thought I'd share this with you about how to take total control of your practice, because there's really one thing we do and one thing that we keep coming back to give us total clarity on how to run the practice, how to grow the practice, how to improve the practice, how to optimize the practice, however you want to put it, because often you guys, you're not shy of working. You put the hard work in, but often like just being busy doesn't get us the results. And if we've got that philosophy of, just pray and hope and wish, then just keep working hard and it will all work out, then we may actually never get there. So I'm going to share this one thing, which it's what we always come back to. It's what we use to inform all our decisions, but also to take total control of the practice, to understand where we need to put our focus, and we can actually see how we're doing. So I'm going to just share this with you. All right, here we go. So I'll make a couple of notes as we go along. But to start, I want you to imagine that you're at the Wimbledon tennis final and you're really excited. You've always wanted to watch the Wimbledon tennis final. Maybe you're at the World Cup football final. It doesn't really matter. But as soon as you're about to start, the announcer comes on and goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, due to a technical malfunction, the scoreboard won't be working this time. So, there won't be any score, but we're just going to have a game anyway. They're just going to have a hit." Now, what makes sport specifically interesting or measurable is actually the scoreboard, right? If we don't know the score, we don't know who's winning or losing. And it's the same in our practice. If we don't know what's actually going on, we can't tell if we're winning or losing. We can't actually tell if the actions that we're taking are actually getting us the results that we want. So we look at this little framework, which basically says this, right? We say, as management, we are managers. We manage the business. We've got to make decisions about what to do in the practice to make it better. And those decisions lead to actions such as, should I put my prices up? Should I hire? Should I fire? Should I change my prices? Should I add more products? Should I buy more kit? What should I do? We've got to make some decisions. Then we've got to take some actions, and then we've got to get some results, right? But where the step that people tend to miss is they don't actually measure the results. Like they don't have the scoreboard, which in sport, if you didn't have the scoreboard, you'd be like, it doesn't make sense because we don't know if we're any good or not. You can't come off a football pitch and go, "Oh, we're doing really, really well. Oh, cool. What was the score? Oh, well, we lost 3-0. So we've got to know what the results are. And the way most people have no clue of their numbers. I don't mean that in any disrespect, but like most people just avoid the numbers because we just want to treat people. We just want to help people. And so they avoid the numbers side of things. But actually what's more stressful than numbers, because a lot of people find them, they're like, "Oh, I don't like numbers." What's more stressful than numbers is not knowing your numbers. That's way more stressful. To be flying blind, not having any clue as to whether you're doing well or not, whether you're financially doing well, whether your practice is performing well. That's stressful. But the good news is, it's actually not that hard to take control of it, because I'm going to show you how to do it. And so the first thing we do is we've got to be able to see the results of our actions. And then we can go, did it work? Did it not? It worked? Good. Keep doing it. Didn't work? Stop doing it. Most people, their business analysis comes down to, at the end of the tax year, they submit everything, they wait a few months, and then they get a report back, which they go, "Oh, right, this is my profit and loss for last year. How did I do?" And normally you scan to the bottom and you see a profit number, and it goes, there's just a number there, and it goes, that year you made £20,000 profit, or whatever it might be. And you go, "Oh, okay. Well, where is it? Where's that profit?" And that's pretty much one of the only bits of analysis that a lot of people do. We get 20 grand. Is that good? I said, "No, I'm not really sure." So the first step that we do is we move to monthly, right? We've got to be able to look every single month how our business is actually doing. rather than this yearly thing. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. Give me a sec. All right. There we go. Okay. Just make a note of that for you guys. Monthly reporting. Now, what does that look like? Okay. I will show you an example of what we want to get to. Don't be bamboozled by the numbers. But this is the one thing that when we have a scoreboard that shows how our practice is doing, much like if we were watching a sports match, we can actually go, this is what's actually happening. So I'm going to show you the data part of it first, because what we put each month in the data is what then shows up in our graphs. Wouldn't it be nice to know how your revenue is doing? Wouldn't it be nice to know how many patients you are seeing each month? So look, let's dive into the practice data entry. Don't let it bamboozle you. Keep it simple. Look, I just want you to keep an eye on one row. Every month, we're just going to go to our software, a couple of different softwares. I'll show you how to do that. And we're going to just put in a metric for each of these things. So the dark green ones are financial metrics. Great news. You don't have to do these yourself, because your bookkeeper should be doing these for you. This is a massive one. Again, if we fully subscribe to the idea that we can't properly run our practice if we don't know what's going on, and that we need our numbers monthly, then we've got to get a bookkeeper. And it's one of those things, don't do it yourself. You're not qualified, find somebody who's an expert, who's actually going to get it right. And it's one of the best investments you'll ever get is a bookkeeper. And your bookkeeper will give you 3 reports each month: profit and loss, cash flow statement, balance sheet. And quite simply, you're going to go, great, what was the revenue last month? And you're just going to put that in. What was the profit? What was the cash flow? So often we focus on revenue, and that's say revenue is for vanity, profit is for sanity. It's not about how much you make, it's how much you keep. And we've got to make sure that we've got enough of a profit margin each month. But again, let's stay big picture. Every month, I want to go, how much money came in, how much money was left, and then what was the change in our bank balance? That's what cash flow is, but don't get stuck on that. But then we want to look at things like this. How many appointments did we see last month? Again, it's just one figure each month. Creating this report, although it looks like there's not a lot of work each month, but this will put you in total control of your practice, actually seeing what's going on and then being able to see the opportunities, right? So look, total appointments, how many of those were new patients? Did we have any DNAs? Did we have any people who canceled and didn't rebook? These are leaky holes in a bucket of a practice. So for example, this is a fake business. This is just for an example. But imagine you run a business and you have 80 DNAs in a month and 50 cancellations. That's a red flag. Now, we don't panic about it, but we go, okay, cool. Now we need to keep an eye on that for next month. And we need to make a decision. Maybe we had a new receptionist start and suddenly cancellations went through the roof and DNAs went through the roof. Maybe not. But if we don't know what's going on, well, we can't change it. And again, that brings us back to this of we've got to make decisions, we've got to take actions, and then we've got to be able to analyze what the results are. So you'll see this analysis, this analysis here comes from our accounting, our bookkeeping, and our scoreboards, which really is just this. It's just a case of, okay, how are we actually doing each month? And every month we sit down and we look at where the opportunities are. And people tend to obsess about I just need more patients. It's like, that's so rarely, unless you're a startup, it's so rarely the answer. There are so many other ways that we can improve the practice. For example, what about your rebook rate? If your rebook rate for 1 month is, let's say it's 50%, which means that for everyone that walked in the door, half of them walked out without an appointment. we go, whoa, that's a leaky hole in the bucket. You know, why aren't we getting our patients back? Because we don't discharge 1 in 2 people, right? You know, so how can we improve the rebook rate? Do you see how actually having this data makes decision making easy, right? Let's just quickly run through these again. Look, financial ones here. Then we look at total patients, new patients, DNAs, cancellation. We look at what the average spend was per appointment, which is like how much money came in, and then how many patients did we see? We divide that by that, and it gives the average spend. In fact, Clinico will give you this anyway. Clinico gives you, that's what we use, gives you so much of this. Like there's even one in here. How to find metrics? Like within practitioner performance, where you go to reports and you go into practitioners' performance, it just shows you exactly how each person's doing. And I'm going to come on to that in a minute. But at the moment, let's stay at a practice level and look at how the practice is doing. And remember, when you look at this, just look at one row. It's just a few numbers each month. So a few other little bits. And when you get started, you might not want to use all of these. Just start with some basics each month. What was the turnover? What was the profit? Each month, how many patients did we see? How many rebooked? What was the average spend? And what was the utilization, or how full were we? That's a start. You don't have to get all of these in one go. So we then come to utilization and capacity. Utilization is people, capacity is property. What I mean by that is utilization is this: of the available appointments, what percentage did we fill, right? And the best way to do this is actually a manual calculation. Yes, it takes a bit of time, but you really get to know the inner workings of your practice if you spend a bit of time going, okay, well, how many appointments were available and how many did we actually fill? So this utilization rate is basically how full were we? Now, the reason there's a difference between utilization and capacity is if I have a 3-room practice and I have one full-time pod working in, or physio or osteo, chiro practitioner working in one room, and that practitioner is full, then the utilization is 100%, because of the available appointments, all of them were taken up. We're totally full. We got a waiting list. But the capacity goes, well, we're not at capacity because property wise, like we've still got 2 empty rooms. So we're only running at 33% capacity. All right, we're a third. Our property is a third full. So that's why it's important to have these, because again, it helps inform our decisions. If I come, I work with a client and I see they're 100% utilized, well, there's no point in improving the rebook rate, reducing DNAs, reducing cancellations, because, well, they're full. So the only step to that is then we need to increase the capacity, i.e. we need to hire someone. So you see how like the numbers don't lie, they just show us how to make decisions in our practice. If I work with somebody and they go, well, our utilization rate is 50%, meaning we're currently only filling 50%, then we go, okay, great. So now let's plug the leaky holes in the business, making sure our rebook rate is good, DNAs are low, cancellations are low, new patient rebook rate is high. Let's plug those holes and then let's market, because at this point we just need more patients. So again, then we're making decisions based on what's actually going to help the practice. Look, we look at other metrics as well. Again, you don't have to start here, keep it simple. We look at how many referrals we get, how many, we like to send letters for new patients to build relationships. We don't expect answers to the letters, but just to show professionalism. And then also from an owner perspective, did we have any referral meetings? Like, did we actually go and build a referral network? As you see here, how many people rebooked, And also we started splitting out, going, you know, of the new patients, how many of those rebooked? Net promoter score is a marvelous metric. It's one of the last ones people tend to add. The net promoter score says, we've all seen this, where we've been asked the question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely would you be to refer us to a friend or family member? It's the most tried and tested customer satisfaction metric on the planet. And it's really nice to know for our practice if people like us or not, because really one of the look, we never look at a metric in isolation. We've got to learn to look at them all together. But if we come in and we go, look, people are rebooking, our rebook rate's really high, and we're getting scored 90% satisfaction rating, then we're good. We're good. And do you see how knowing these numbers isn't more stressful? It's way less stressful. It's so stressful not knowing your numbers. And again, if you just look at one row, it's not that many each month. If you just started with these two, this one, these two, and here, you halve the amount of metrics that we look at. It's a great start. Really, 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 really good start. And so we're then able to know whether we're doing a good job or not. So this is a practice level. Now, I'm going to make a note or two for you. Okay, so monthly reporting, get a bookkeeper. Yeah. Now, here's where that's first step. You see how then you can make informed decisions about your practice. But here's where we then go next. Imagine you've got kids and they're in a class, and you speak to the teacher and you say, how is little Jimmy doing? And the teacher says to you, well, I tell you what, the whole class is averaging a B+. How good is that? And you go, oh, that's awesome. But how's Jimmy doing? And you go, oh, no, we don't do individual grades. We don't know how they're doing individually. We only know how the class is doing. You'd be pretty miffed, because you've got to go, no, well, I need to know how, we also, as well as knowing how well the class is doing or how well the practice is doing, we also need to know, okay, but how's each individual doing? And when you look at an individual, you look at all of their subjects. Little Jimmy is doing well in biology, really bad in drama, really well in PE, And when we understand how each kid in the class is doing, we can help them. And that's our role as mentors, is to actually help our team improve. Because really, that's how we improve the performance of the practice. If I run a football team, yes, it's about the team's performance, but I also need to spend time with each individual and work out how to help them individually. So our next step is we go into practitioner data. And like I said, so much of this is already available on Clinico. They're just reports you can run. Like, the data is there. This software is incredible for that. So what we then do, I'm going to show it to you as the graph first, really. Imagine you've got 3 team members. We can see how they're all doing. And we can see where the money's coming in from. We can see their average spend per appointment, So what is it that practitioner number 3 is doing that practitioner 1 and 2 aren't? How come their average spend per appointment is always higher? Good conversation to have, but practitioner 3, way down on product sales compared to practitioner 1. So that's a cool conversation to have. You go, hey, look, what are you doing? How come you're managing to, recommend twice as many products? What are you doing? And again, I'm not going to dig into every single one of these, but you see how first step is to understand how is the class doing as a whole? How is the team doing as a whole? Second step is how is each individual kid doing in that class? It's the same in the practice. We've got to know how the practice is doing, step one. Then we've got to know how the practitioners are doing. So we've got to create a practice scoreboard. Don't overthink it to start with. Start simple and then add metrics over time. Practitioner. Try and spell Blake. Practitioner scoreboard. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to go, how do we translate metrics? So now we're armed with this data, right? There we go. Now we're armed with this data. So the question then becomes, what do we do with it? Because again, we said, look, the way to take total control of your practice, first, we've got to know what's going on. We've got to create some form of scoreboard. Then what do we do with that? So I'm going to give you two rules when it comes to, okay, so we're in the practice scoreboard. I'm going to give you two rules, really important. Rule one. Rule one. Trend is our friend. We never look at 1 month's piece of data without the context of what happened before. Because I don't know if a rebook rate of 60% is good because I have no comparison. Meaning, if this month the rebook rate is 60, but the last 6 months it was 90, that's a problem. That's a bad trend. Something went wrong. However, if the previous 6 months we started at a 40% rebook rate, then we went 40, 42, 45, 40, 50, 55, and then we got to 60, we go, trends going the right way. Awesome. We don't look for these numbers to suddenly jump and leap. We want them to evolve. And especially when we're working with, when we're mentoring people one-to-one, and we identify, well, there's probably room for improvement in, the rebook rate. We don't jump from, right, you're at 60, let's get you to 85. No, we go, well, look, if it's higher than 60 next month, that's a good trend. Trend is our friend. So that's the first one. Trend is our friend. Next one. Never look at a metric in isolation. Here's what I mean by that. Here we go. Here's what I mean by that. Now, I want you to imagine that we are looking at this month, October 2019, right? Now, I want you to imagine, here we go. We had 60 DNAs. So I start looking at my metrics. And I forget the rule of not looking at a metric in isolation. I become fixated on this DNAs. I'm like, whoa, hang on. 60 people did not attend. Team, this is not good enough. Not that you should ever mentor your team that way, but this isn't good enough. What's going on here? It's like, whoa, hang on, calm. Let's first look at the total picture. Because if I came over here, I would realize that we were 93% full. So actually, when I look at everything first, I go, okay, well, look, maybe there's something in this, the DNAs, maybe, maybe that's probably something we're going to look at, but we were 93% full. And look, we had almost, from this point, it would have been a record month. So the danger sometimes is to go, oh my God, our rebook rate's down. And we just look at it in isolation. We're going to know, like Neo from the Matrix, you've got to look at the numbers and see the whole picture. So never look at a metric in isolation. Okay. All right. So can you see how if you want to take total control of your practice and make informed decisions, right, we need to make some decisions based on some business analysis, but we can only do that if we have a scoreboard. So we look at the results, and every single month we say, okay, how are we doing? And then we look at those numbers, and that through business analysis empowers us to make better quality decisions, which then leads to our actions, which leads to new results. Next month we go, cool, how did we do? Right, let's do some business analysis. Let's make even better decisions, and so on, and so the cycle continues. But this is the key piece. We've got to have the scoreboard together. We've got to have some data to work from. Otherwise we are totally guessing. And there are so many people just working really, really hard and doing a great job in many other ways, but their focus just isn't targeted because they don't have the results. They don't have the scoreboard that empowers and informs them to make a good decision about their practice. Because when we have that, it actually becomes really, really simple. Well, if we're 100% utilized, we need to hire. We need to increase capacity. If our utilization is down, well, we need to market. You know, if our rebook rate's down, we need to improve that. If our DNS, and so on and so forth. We look at our profit. If our margins are too small, we need to work on that. We might need to look at our expenses. You know, so it's the core piece, the bullseye that informs all the decisions in our practice. When you then add into the mix practitioner scoreboards, where you really start helping each person in your team improve better, then your business will grow exponentially. Awesome. There we go. Well, look, I hope that helps. If you've got any comments, questions, type them in the chat box below, and I'm sure I'll see you guys again soon. Hope that helped.